Howdy y'all, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to take a deep dive into some of the ancient petrified rock formations found all around the world, and we're also going to take a look at some of the most unique mountain ranges. I've been receiving a lot of comments that are referencing me to check out the petrified nature of the old world and look at some of these petrified locations around the world. So that is what we're going to do in this video today. And I'm going to begin in the petrified forest in Arizona. They say this forest is named after the many petrified ancient trees that reside on this land. And these trees basically will not decompose. And instead, they form these really amazing crystalline structures. And they have these patterns and these colors that are so unique. And they say that this land is named strictly for these petrified remains of the trees, but there are also many rock formations on this area that simply do not make a lot of sense and are also very unique and seem to have characteristics that we could lend to old world construction, but they say these are actually naturally occurring. And mainly what I want to talk about, at least in this petrified forest in Arizona, is that this petrified forest is said to have had its own sphinx. So according to the narrative, they discovered this sphinx when they were surveying this land for the first time. And from the research that I did, I could find that there was only 3 known photographs of this sphinx that were ever taken, and none of them are very clear. So if you could find any more, please drop them in the comments down below, because I would be very interested to look at those. Now, you can definitely see that there was a massive sort of rock formation on this mountain or on this mound, and it's really interesting because they say that this formation was not man-made, but you can see some sort of definition to it that indicates that maybe it had a different history than what we were given. However, we'll never really know, because before this park was opened up to the public and before they let this petrified forest be a national monument, they tore down the sphinx, or it naturally fell. They don't have it written what really happened to it, but when the park was opened, this sphinx and the definition of this mound were no longer there. And I think it's interesting to note that in the narrative they say this was naturally occurring, and a lot of these structures in this area were naturally occurring, and they were petrified and they were ancient, whether they were rock or they were just, trees and things that were really petrified. They say that these were from a long time ago. So these stood the way they were in this petrified state for many years, according to the narrative. And yet, within the few years that man came in contact with them and brought photography around, many of these structures disappeared, or they no longer stood in the way that they did when they were initially petrified or they were initially formed. So I find that to be very interesting, that they say that we didn't go in and mess around with this land, we preserved it. But at the same time, many of these structures have changed, and they say that was naturally occurring. So just interesting that for millennia before us, they stood petrified and didn't move. And then after we came in contact with them, they naturally changed. And I think that's the other interesting thing about the desert, is that we have all these mysterious and dirty deeds sort of associated with the desert. You have Sin City in Las Vegas is a desert, and Death Valley. And in movies and cinema and books, literature, you always have the desert area depicted as esoteric and mysterious, and it's always written that there are hidden treasures in the desert. And I think that's a concept that's worth uncovering and unpacking, because a lot of the old world cities and structures that we find, many of them are buried in different sort of sand and mud and other things that could be considered deserted and barren. Now we're getting to my favorite part of the video, and this is a new concept that I've heard people discussing down in the comments, so I thought I would give it a shot myself. And this is the idea of taking these old world constructions, these different monuments and these different rock formations and different landscape shots, mountain ranges, things like that, and basically looking at them at a different angle, taking these photographs and turning them on their side or putting them vertical or flipping them upside down and seeing if anything about the image is striking or stands out to you. And I already did this with a lot of these images, and there's a lot of things that stood out to me. Now, it seems like a novel concept, but look right here at this landscape shot turned on its side, and look at the image that really pops out in this mountain range. That's what we're going to be looking for today. I'm not going to tell you exactly what I see. It's more like a cloud. Basically, look at it, and you can figure out what you see yourself. And I'd love to hear about that down in the comments below. But let's get right into it. We're just going to take some of these unique mountain ranges and things that really stood out to me, and hopefully they stand out to you as well. So, what do you think about these mountain ranges? Do you see any sort of imagery hidden within these rocks and these different formations? And also, let me know what you think about Arizona and the petrified tree stumps and the petrified rocks and the different formations around there. Do you think this is all naturally occurring, these formations and these rock faces? Or do you think this is a sort of hidden history that we haven't really scratched the surface of quite yet? I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments down below. This is more of a discussion video. So really, it's all about us breaking it down in the comment section and talking amongst ourselves and seeing what we think about these images. And I really enjoy talking about these things with you and hearing what you have to say. So I look forward to that. And we're at like 6K, 6.5K subscribers. So this family of ours is growing. So from me to you, I really appreciate you being here, and I will talk to you on the next video.